Everyone to today's candidate forum for City Commissioner candidates for District 3. I'm going to go over some of the basics of the forum that we're going to be having today. We've asked all of our 3 candidates to introduce themselves, followed by 3 of their responses, their 3 campaign priority responses that were given to the Bernalillo Democratic Candidate Focus. Each candidate will have 3 minutes in their introduction. We'll be following with our questions with 2-minute responses equally to all candidates. We're going to place our candidates in order today based on their last name alphabetical first. So Adriana Barboa will be going first, followed by Adrian Carver and Marcus Gonzalez. Janet today is having a little bit of difficulty with her microphone, but I'd like to read a preamble that she has written for us today. New Mexico Democrats believe that every person matters. All citizens should have an equal voice in how we as people are governed and called out to disappropriate influence by rich and powerful special interests in our government. We stand for the 99%. We affirm the ties that bind us together as one human family. We envision a New Mexico in which every person is treated with respect and every person has what it takes to live a life of dignity, security, decent paying jobs, a just environment where the unmatched beauty of our land is preserved for future generations. As caring citizens of this state, this country, and this planet, we hold these basic rights to be the natural heritage of all people. As dedicated Democrats, we band together to claim that the heritage for every member of our human community, both now and in future times, come together. And one other quick statement, post-awards are not endorsing any candidates, and the purpose of this forum is to inform the voting public. And one more bit of housekeeping that we're going to go over is early voting. We'd like to remind everyone that in-person early voting has started yesterday, Saturday. We do not encourage in-person voting. We believe the healthiest and safest way for New Mexicans to vote is to request an absentee ballot. The latest time to request an absentee ballot through the Secretary of State is May 28th at 11:59 p.m. Once you do receive your ballot, we encourage you to fill out your ballot and return your ballot as quickly as possible. We have been notified that the time frame for the post office of delivery is lagging. And so just to ensure that your ballot is counted on time and into the county clerks, please return it as quickly as possible. We would also like to remind you that when you're filling out your envelope, the second envelope before returning it to your mail, please remember to sign and put your year of birth. And again, the election date on the envelope is June 2nd, 2020. We'd also like to ask ask everyone that if you're looking for a voter's guide, the League of Women's Voters has a wonderful guide that is being put out, web available for everyone, easy to read. And of course, the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County has a guide to all of the candidates and their candidate focus. So I'm going to start with the first question, and a quick reminder again, 2-minute response. And Janet will remind the candidates of a 1-minute point, a 30-second point, a 15-second reminder, and a reminder that your time is up. Okay, I'm going to read the first question. I'd like to ask all the candidates introduce themselves. This is a 3-minute introduction, and Adriana Barboa, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Adrienne Barboa, and I'm running for Bernalillo County Commission in District 3 because I believe we need strong, bold, community-based leadership. Southeast Albuquerque is where I grew up. It's where I raised my own kids. We went to Bandelier, Wilson, and Albuquerque High. Some people say that we live in a rough part of town. And yes, I know as well as you do that we have unacceptable levels of crime, much of it related to generational traumas, substance use, and poverty. But I also have seen, lived, and loved the beauty and resiliency around every corner. Neighbors help neighbors. We value family, and that's the community that I know and love. I will take, as your county commissioner, I will make sure to commit to public safety policies that help everyone feel safe, a behavioral health and social safety net that keeps our communities and our streets and our folks without shelter a place to be able to rest their heads. Fight for the living wage and paid leave for all our workers, and I will continue the work to fairly and fully clean up the Kirtland Air Force Base. This is a unique time, and I want to take my experience as a single mom, as a first-generation college student, as a victim of crime, and someone who has even been arrested, with me to every county commission meeting for every single vote. I hope we can together build the opportunity and really rebuild the world we all want to live in, starting right here in Bernalillo County. As your county commissioner, I pledge to lead with my values, with integrity and honesty, and together we can move all our communities forward.
Thank you, Adriana. Adrian Carver, can you please introduce yourself and give a brief rundown of your 3 candidate focus points?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you to the folks at Democratic Party of Bernalillo County and wards 19A and C, I think, maybe B as well. But I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I'm getting used to putting on real clothes again and, you know, not wearing t-shirts and shorts because, you know, I see these as a job interview. About who is most prepared to be your county commissioner. So you may know me as the president of the former president of the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association, or the former president of the Young Democrats of New Mexico, the executive director of EQ&M, or just an active progressive activist. I'm just a young, queer, Hispanic guy who is doing everything I can to improve my community. I come from 9 generations of New Mexicans who have dedicated their lives to service. My dad is a contractor. My mom was an education activist, and you know, I'm proud to be running for the Bernalillo County Commission because I am hoping to live up to the heritage and legacy of service that my family has. And so I'm focused on helping and supporting, building the scaffolds for our community to recover from the COVID-19 public health crisis and the economic downturn that is related to it. But this is kind of a watershed moment, right? This is where we have seen exposed for a larger public the ways that we've built systems that are inequitable and unfair and lead to lower outcomes for marginalized parts of our community. So that's why I'm ready to focus on public safety, which means delivering on the promises of the behavioral health tax. I think it also means more oversight for the county sheriff. We've got to make sure that the sheriff's office is not engaging in broken windows type policing and using body cameras. We've also got an opportunity to rebuild our economy, and I think I'm proposing that we establish a small business recovery task force that you know, needs to inform policy for Bernalillo County on how we can help rebuild our economy. So, you know, that plus working on the environment, I'm focused on making sure that we recover, and I appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Adrian. Marcus Gonzalez, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this forum, and thank you to participants for being here as well. I'm Marcos A. Gonzalez. The Gonzalez family has been in New Mexico for over 12 generations. And my Chavez grandparents actually bought into Ward 19A in 1946 when it was the edge of town for Albuquerque. But not only did my grandparents live in the ward, but also my uncle's family, my cousins, my aunt, and my wife and I currently live in the ward as well. So we're definitely committed to the community and been committed to it as being the former president of the Highland Business Neighborhood Association, which is also in the ward. And so growing up and going to school and while living in the ward and having a small business in the ward, I've seen the transition and the ups and the downs in the community. I've seen where there used to be vibrant small businesses and now it's an empty lot or boarded up building. But as the assistant director of the economic development for the county, I see that as new opportunities to create economic prosperity for our community. So that's why my three topics for the campaign is economic development, public safety, and affordable housing, because all jobs are valuable for the economic growth of our community. I mean, it can't be just having a positive environment. It needs to have also a positive public safety environment, because not only does our businesses, but our residents have to feel safe. And looking at maximizing the use of law enforcement agency dollars, but also for public infrastructure. So like the county's project to put new streetlights in the International District. And so, but it just can't be about having a place to work and a safe environment, but a place that's actually affordable to live. And that's something that we're struggling with here in Bernalillo County. So we need to be able to make sure that we are maximizing being able to have people live close to where they work and filling in that safe environment. And so that's why I continue to work forward as being on the Commission for Economic Development, being experience of economic development into the work of the County Commission. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to having positive discussion and continuing the positive campaign that we're running as well, and look forward to our community's questions about today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, so I'm going to begin with our first question, and our first question will go to Adriana Barboa in the 2-minute response. So Adrian, what do you consider the most important duties of the county commissioners?
Yes, so as described by the county and our government, that the role of county commissioners is to ensure the public health and safety of our residents across the county. So I believe in community-driven solutions to crime and our public safety, and I believe that that is part of increasing our public health. District 3 houses most of our county's behavioral health system and recovery systems. I'm a bridge builder, and I'm ready to take this issue on straight on, not only because I've worked as a case manager directly with behavior folks that are experiencing and living behavioral health needs, but also because I understand addiction. As a daughter of someone who struggled with drug use and alcohol use, similar to far too many of our county's families, I understand what addiction takes, and I want to bring all stakeholders, business owners, community members, law enforcement together to create the services we actually need that are collaborative, that are effective in meeting our community's needs to increase our overall public health and safety.
Thank you, Adriana. Adrian Carver, and I'll repeat the question for all the candidates. What do you consider the most important duties of the county commissioners?
Yeah, I appreciate this question because we live in a district that has overlapping jurisdictions, and so that means that to tackle some of the most difficult challenges that we're experiencing, like recovering from the COVID-19 crisis, ending homelessness, delivering on the behavioral health tax, completing the cleanup of the Kirtland Air Force spill. In order to do that, we have to have strong partnerships with people at various levels of government. I'm really proud to have built strong relationships with people at the state, city, and federal levels. And, you know, that's what we've got to do. This district is all within city limits. And so that means whomever is in this seat gets to focus on, you know, 10,000-foot policies to improve our communities. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to working with our federal delegation, the state government, and the city government to bring as many dollars as we can into the county so that we can recover from this public health crisis. But it also means we have to be good partners with the city on addressing homelessness. We can't do any of this alone. And I'm looking forward to playing a role of intermediary to connect the county to the resources that we need to tackle these issues.
Thank you, Adrian. And Marcus? And the question is, what do you consider the most important duties of the county commissioners?
That's a great question. The most important duties for a county commissioner is looking at both setting policy for the county, but also managing to our budget, the budget which is highly dependent on the economy. So we really need to focus on being able to making sure that the county has a strong economy, working to making sure that our small business community and our business community is being able to flourish, and of working at the county for the last 8 years and working with the commission and working with staff at not just in the economic development department, but through every department in the county, and being able to do that. And so I've seen what happens when policymakers do work well together and what happens when they don't. And so being able to push for working firmly together will lead to greater growth for our community as well. And so I look forward to being able to do that more as well. And it's at the end of the day, it's about teamwork, because it's not just county commission that does the work of the county. There are a number of other elected officials that have to do that as well, from the assessor's office to the treasurer's office. So understanding from a staff perspective of how each elected office functions as part of a team, and being able to pull that through leadership on the county commission as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Our second question will begin with Adrian Carver. Discuss why you may or may not support merging city, county government systems, including law enforcement.
Yeah, thank you. I support us starting a conversation about how we can make our government work better for the people living in our community. And I think that means a long-term discussion about how we can consolidate the city and county governments. I'm increasingly concerned that, you know, there are competing and conflicting policies on one side of a street, and it's different from another. You know, the county and the city have already begun consolidating a lot of services. We've seen, you know, fire and 911 and some of our first responders beginning to consolidate. And we have a model for how all of this works. Let's look at the Water Utility Authority. Let's look at you know, some of the joint powers agreements that are made between the city and the county. So I think we need to have a long-term discussion of what that means, and to look at the ways that we can continue to create efficiencies in the way that we deliver programs and services at Bernalillo County and with the city. And, you know, I think that that means developing a long-term strategy to consolidate the two governments.
Thank you, Adrian. And Marcus, discuss why you may or may not support merging city, county government systems, including law enforcement.
Thank you. I would not be in favor of supporting the merging of the two governments. They are separate equal and provide a number of services to, especially in the incorporated area, but you have to remember there's other municipalities and other groups that are also within Bernalillo County as well. So being able to do that. And we also had tried combining them, which did not work well. But back to your question specifically to law enforcement, until the city of Albuquerque is through its DOJ use of force agreement, would not be in favor of being able to subjecting our sheriff officers to the same criteria that they have with the DOJ rules, because the APD does depend on sheriff officers to do some pieces of law enforcement that are outside of the DOJ use of force. So until we do that, but right now we have successful mutual aid agreements between each other for being able to provide public safety. We do have a uniform calling system that works well, and a number of other joint powers agreements where we're able to still provide great services to all of our residents in the city and the incorporated county and in other municipalities and villages that are also within Bernalillo County. So thank you.
And Adrienne, sorry, my apologies if I was mispronouncing your name. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Adrienne.
Adrienne Barboa.
Adrienne.
You can just call me by Barboa if you want.
Ms. Barboa. So the question to you, discuss why you may or may not support merging city-county government systems, including law enforcement.
Yeah, so, I have, for one, I'm that homegrown New Mexican that has family across the district. So my grandpa's from the South Valley, my cousin's from the far west side of Westgate, and I lived here in southeast part of Albuquerque my whole life. So I don't know that I would support the merging. I don't believe I would support the merging of our governments. I think play particular roles, particularly for unincorporated areas. We know oftentimes it's easy to focus on the needs of the city because that's where most of us are. But I'm worried about our neighbors and our family that are in our unincorporated, our businesses that are in unincorporated areas that we must also consider, even though they're not all in our district. We have to consider the health and safety of our whole county, right? So I don't think I would consider that. I think having effective services and communication systems is what I have heard first responders, firefighters, and police officers ask for, systems that are effective and the kind of technology we need to get them across. And yeah, so I think it means that I would make sure that our county is staying effective in the roles that we are to play with our county budget and with the impacts that we can make towards the health and safety of our families.
Thank you, Ms. Barboa. Our next question will be starting with Marcus. Please address any criminal record you may have and any comment that you wish to add to that.
Thank you. And Tiffany, it's actually a Marcos, not a Marcus. But addressing that, I don't have a criminal record, but would like to say that just because you have a criminal record doesn't mean that we shouldn't be giving those individuals the same opportunity for being part of our workforce and part of our community. So as part of through economic development of even connecting workforce connection funds to our programs at MDC, so that when individuals come out, they're able to participate in the training programs and the re-education programs of being able to get into the workforce as well. So look forward to continuing that type of work, because once again, all jobs are important to Bernalillo County and all residents are important to filling the jobs of today and tomorrow for Bernalillo County. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Next is going to be Ms. Balboa. Please address any criminal record you may have and any additional comments that you wish to add.
Yes, thank you. Like so many of our families across the county, I have faced bias policing, and my community here in Southeast Albuquerque has been over-policed for decades. I did have unpaid parking meter tickets that led to bench warrants being issued. I paid and resolved those issues. And I know that so many of our families face fines and fees for parking tickets, and that can lead to suspension of license, which can impede our families to be able to even drive safely. There's a new organization called Fines and Fees Justice Center that wants to work at the county level. As a county commissioner, I look forward to partnering with them. In 2018, I was pulled over in Arizona for speeding, and I was arrested for having less than 2 grams of cannabis in the car. So I've said this, people know this. I used it in many of my advocacy stories for criminal justice reform at the state and local level and with APD Forward. So it's something that's not even illegal in New Mexico. And that was the charge I got. And I know that it sounds scary because the charge is a blanket charge that includes the word narcotics. So I'm disappointed at the way people have decided to use that against me. But I was arrested for less than 2 grams of cannabis. It's an example of criminalizing our brown and black bodies and the failed war on drugs that our communities have been facing since the Reagan era. I'm not ashamed of my personal story. I've talked about the incident openly since I became a candidate, like I said, as an advocate for many years, and you can read about it on my blog. I've been accountable for my mistakes, and I believe most of all that my experiences make me more qualified, not less, to work for our community on the county commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. Adrian, question to you. Please address any criminal record you may have and any additional comments you wish to share.
Yeah, again, I appreciate the question, and the answer is no. And, you know, I think I just want to say that, you know, everybody gets parking tickets. Everybody forgets to take care of them, or, you know, can't take care of them right away. It happens. It's even understandable to, you know, have to wait so long to that a judge will issue a bench warrant. It's a normal part of life, right? Especially working in downtown where Adrienne and I both work. You know, it's difficult to find parking sometimes. But I believe that people running for office should, you know, be organized enough to take care of an administrative function like a parking ticket or a state tax lien. And people running for office should take into account the resources that it takes for the courts to issue a warrant. You know, once is fine, but 6 times over 3 years brings into question the ability to be organized enough to serve. And so it shouldn't take the threat of arrest by the county sheriff to make someone running for office pay their fines. And that's the point. This is a job interview. Any employer would take a second look at, you know, something like that. And I hope that voters do as well.
Thank you, Adrian. Our next question is going to go to Ms. Balboa. COVID-19 has further stressed the economy. Discuss how you would have the county support local businesses in their recovery.
Thank you. Yes, this is probably one of our most important questions. Glad to get to it. I support our local and small business owners. You know, our economy is how we have our economy recover from this time, and hopefully rebuild us in the structures that we need that serve us and able to get rid of pieces of bureaucracy that don't. But I support our local and small area business owners, our businesses that help our economies thrive. My daughter-in-law works at the Golden Pride across the street from the University Hospital. So I know she is so thankful that she has employment during this time. She's still working 40 hours a week. That makes her happy, and it makes her not come and ask me for money, her and my son. But I worry about her health and safety every day because I know she is talking to people that are visiting or coming from or working at that hospital right across the street, and the rest of us that are trying to support our local economy and visiting our local businesses. So as county commissioner, I would champion financial supports for our businesses to be able to make it through this pandemic, as well as support for protective equipment and safe conditions for workers to be able to stay healthy in the workforce.
Thank you, Ms. Balboa. Adrian, the question, COVID-19 has further stressed the economy. Discuss how you would have the county support local businesses in their recovery.
Yeah, I appreciate this question. And, you know, moments of crisis demand that we recenter, that we renew, and that we strengthen our social contract. And part of that means to help our business community to climb out of uh, the downturn related to the COVID-19 crisis. And so if you go to my website at adriancarver.com, you'll see a lot of plans. I've been kind of joking that I'm the Elizabeth Warren of Bernalillo County, because I have detailed plans on my website. And you can find where I will talk about, you know, establishing more worker protections related to the public health emergency. You'll see me talking about establishing a small business recovery task force, where we can have small business owners come together and inform the way that we develop policies related to the recovery. You'll also see me talking about expanding the small and local business procurement preferences. You know, I have detailed plans on how we can ensure that when vendors to the county are, you know, there's a expanded preference for local and small businesses in the procurement code. And this is an opportunity for us to create that scaffolding that we can keep in the long term, so that our businesses continue to thrive here, that we keep our dollars local in the county instead of sending them to out of state corporations. And whenever possible, we need to keep that money here in town. You know, it's time. We've seen a lot of really beautiful ways our community has come together, and I'm running for county commission because I believe in the power of local government to make a lasting positive impact on people's lives.
Thank you, Adrian. So Marcos, COVID-19 has further stressed the economy. Discuss how you would have the county support local businesses in their recovery.
Great. And one of the things that's happening right now, that as working in the economic development department at the county, we're focusing on the recovery. So providing business assistance to business owners and being able to make that transition into phase one and how to re-educate. But it needs to be a further discussion, because the PPP loans, the EIDL that from the SBA is only going to last for so long, or there's many businesses in the county that did not qualify for them, or that are actually can't use them because they're not able to. So it's looking at how are we already structuring with the CARES Act money that we received at the county of getting money to small businesses and business owners and our nonprofit sector. Because we can't, it's not just about our small businesses, but also looking at the high number of nonprofits that create employment in the county. And so also looking at, so it's a re-education piece of instilling confidence into the consumers of Bernalillo County that your favorite business, your favorite barbershop, your favorite restaurant, it's safe to go back to, it's safe to shop there, and it's safe to be part of the fabric of the community. So, and with that, in terms of the candidate that has the experience of helping businesses create jobs, the county, we've created over 5,000 new permanent jobs, 5,000 construction jobs, and $1 billion of private investments into our county over the last 8 years. But that's not enough, because we have to do more, and especially now, we have to do more to make sure that we retain those jobs for our community, because be able to put it to work for the county as well. So I'm asking voters to put my experience to work for them, because we are going to need economic prosperity, especially since the county is a business that depends on the successful business growth of our county. So thank you so much.
You're on mute.
Thank you. I apologize. So last question from us, and then we're going to open up the questions from our attendees. So This one will go to Adrian Carver. How would you address the behavioral health needs and the homeless needs in the county?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button.
No worries.
So yeah, this is an important question. And you know, what has happened is over the last 4 years, we started collecting an 1/8 of a cent behavioral health tax. And what I'm disappointed about is that it has taken quite a while for us to get that money into the community until just a couple of months ago, just a few months ago, earlier in the year, there were tens of millions of dollars that had gone unspent with the Behavioral Health Initiative. And while there's good work happening and you know, our staff at the county level are working hard to address the issue, you know, we need to do more and we need to do it in a more coordinated way. For me, you know, being, we need to lean on our public health professionals. You know, I've been a public health organizer for pretty much all my adult career, and I know the value of looking at the social determinants of health, and that's related to behavioral health. And so we really need to work on a comprehensive, long-term public health approach to ending the cycles of addiction and violence, and ending the cycles of homelessness. You know, that means for me that, you know, we need to partner with the city and the state to make sure that and you can go to my website, again, adriancarver.com, and read about my plan for addressing the behavioral health crisis. I think it's important also to note that we've got to protect the most vulnerable. And to make sure that the people that are most marginalized by our communities are brought resources and services.
Thank you, Adrian. Marcos, how would you address the behavioral health needs and the homeless needs in our county?
And this is a great question. The behavioral health tax was a tax that our community desperately wanted to be able to make sure that individuals experiencing behavioral health challenges get the help that they need. And we're seeing that there's a shortage of health providers. So we need to take that economic development approach of being able to, how are we going to get more providers into our community, whether partnering with our educational institutions, our licensing professionals, or is it that we need to recruit individuals from outside the community to be part of it? And so this isn't just a county issue, it's a statewide challenge, but it's also a challenge that we're seeing in other industries as well. So we need to take the same provide and being able to make sure that we get the licensed providers that we need into our community to be able to making sure that the individuals that are experiencing behavioral health challenges are able to be taken care of. But also it is the fact that we do have a homelessness challenge in our community as well, with many individuals that are experiencing homelessness and unhoused. So it is partnering not just with the city and with the state, but also our great nonprofits that provide great amount of services, because the nonprofits, the providers, are the ones who actually are in the day-to-day of actually providing great services and making sure the individuals that are experiencing homelessness are getting the best services possible. And so we need to making sure that we're able to connect them to the best services, because I do care about every individual that's in, not just in these wards, but in our community and in Bernalillo County. And if we band together, we can make sure that every individual in Bernalillo County has a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcos. Ms. Balboa, how would you address the behavioral health needs and the homelessness needs in our county?
Yes, so like I've said multiple times, I believe in community-driven solutions, buy-in for our families and the communities and our public safety net that we're trying to create, right? That homelessness takes a multi-pronged approach, as well as our behavioral health system issue that impacts our overall public health. from everything from the Gateway Center being fully supported to meet the needs of our communities, as well as the services we already offer as a county through MATS or supporting Endorphin Power Company or with the partnership with the University Hospital. So those systems are what we do well and what we can do more robustly. Now is an opportunity in this time to really refocus, reprioritize, keep what's working, scrap what's not. And you know what I believe most of all and have led work on for the last 15 years is to make sure that I believe that who knows how to best cut through that bull crap, the stuff that's not working, are those frontline workers, those folks that are on the front desk, that do the intake, that make sure files are organized well and getting to the healthcare providers, and that then those systems are all followed through with. They know what's not working. They know what is. I want to bring in all stakeholders to address it. I think Tiny Home Village is a perfect example where community-led, community-driven project, thanks to Elsa and all those folks community folks that put their own time and energy into making that project such a huge success. They partnered with willing county level partner leaders, and they got the city involved, and they got legislators involved. And that's a perfect example of how community, governments, our elected officials can work together for something that benefits homelessness, our behavioral health community, and we can have more projects like that. I'm excited for. Last, I would say our veterans. Oh, she got it. Go ahead. I'll do that.
Thank you, Ms. Balboa. So a big thank you to Flora, who's helping us in our chat room. And so I'm going to turn to some of the questions that are coming in our chat room. And I believe this question goes to all three candidates. So I'm going to ask it to all three, starting with Ms. Balboa. What is your view on the requiring of Bernalillo County officers wearing body cameras?
Yes, I believe they should be wearing body cameras. And I believe that our needs for our sheriffs and our APD officers to meet the needs of our families goes bigger than that. I worked with APD Forward for several years, which was the monitoring sort of community collective that brought together sort of important folks to be able to monitor the consent decree that APD is under. Right now, I know that our county has led with a carrot, right, providing the funding needed for body cams to be implemented. And I think it's time we leverage our budget power to make sure that the county is getting the training they need, so that we have thoughts and real plans on community policing, how there's true community policing oversight, and how, how we wear, how the body cams are implemented. Finally, I would say I have 3 of my cousins who are police officers right now, and I have a nephew whose dream was to always be a police officer. And I want our officers to be able to work in a manner with the equipment they need, with the time, respite time and time off, without incentives that don't actually serve them, being able to also meet the needs of their families. So when they come to service, they have respite time. So I want to work with all of us, bring our families, and that it's all of our county. It's how we work together to face these. Thank you.
Thank you. So Adrian, the question from our attendees is, what is your view on requiring all Bernalillo County officers wearing body cameras?
Yeah, excuse me, my allergies are acting up today. So I believe that the sheriff should require body cameras and in-dash cameras on their vehicles. You know, it's an interesting question about how to hold an independent office accountable. And I think Adrienne is right about leveraging the power of the purse to hold the sheriff accountable. I'm really disappointed in his, his recent attempts to score cheap political points with a tough on crime, broken windows, stop and frisk type of policing in our district, in our neighborhoods that are very close to Ward 19. And we've got to work on building a stronger relationship with the sheriff's office. Now, I think we can do that, and I think we have the ability and we have the opportunity to establish some of the strongest community level police oversight in the country. We should establish a community police law enforcement oversight board or commission for the county, where folks can send complaints and we can have independent investigation. I think it's important for the safety of our community that we have trust and confidence in a sheriff's office, so that we all move together in building a stronger community. And so for me, like I said, it starts with some of the strongest police law enforcement oversight. And I think we can do that at the county. And as your county commissioner, excuse me, I'll work as hard as I can to make that happen.
Thank you, Adrian. Marcos, a question from our attendees. What is your view on the requiring of all Bernalillo County officers wearing body cameras?
Right, and this has been a topic of great discussion because I've been through the commission meetings where there's been lots of public comment from both sides of for and against. And I've said I believe in a pilot program of exploring of how a full program, how it would be used with the deputies, but also understanding to the county, especially as we're headed for uncertain economic times, is what's the true cost? Because currently we don't have the infrastructure to support a body camera system. And it's not just the technology of the actual cameras, but it's our IT system. And it's also the individuals who are going to be reviewing the footage and working with the sheriff's office to implement of the happenings of what's happening with the footage. So it's making sure that if we are going to go forward with this system, that we have the best practice systems, because we want them to be able to have a successful model to be able to roll out later on a full program if that's what the pilot program says. Because we really want to be able to make sure that if we're going to implement a program, that we're implementing it correctly and that our community is getting the best return for our investment, because it is a large investment for our community to take on adding cameras. And so making sure that, once again, with any program, that the community is getting the most out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm going to continue to go in rotating order. And this next question coming from one of our attendees, again, applies to all three. So I'll start with Adrian. What specifically can you or should a county commissioner do to help build a stronger economy?
Yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about how we need to work really hard to emerge from the economic downturn related to COVID-19. That means establishing a small business recovery task force to inform policymaking at the county and city level so that we can work together with our partners to come out of, strengthen our social contract coming out of that mess. I talked about the amending the procurement preference code to allow our local and small businesses to have a stronger preference when vending their services to the county. And I think what we can also do is we've got to protect our workers. For me, that means putting together a plan for or implementing a plan that I have on my website, adriancarver.com, for moving us to a $15 minimum wage. I worked really hard with a lot of our partners to advocate that the state minimum wage was raised to $12 an hour, and now it's time for us to do the same thing at the county. I think we've also got to start thinking about how we get people connected to the 21st century, which means the internet. We've got to we've got to invest in a plan to get county-wide affordable fiber internet access. And we've also got to start thinking about a more regional approach to public transit. Not only is it an environmental issue, but we should be focused on making sure that people can get from where they live to where they work, so that our workers are emerging from this crisis along with our small businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the question is, what specifically can or should a county commissioner do to help build a stronger economy?
Thank you for asking me another economic development question. At the county right now, we're working with small businesses and providing that. One of the things we work with each commissioner on is providing an educational summit for what they feel that their constituents need. And we've done everything from social media approach to best practices for applying for grants, or best practices for for a family on business. So a county commissioner has to be in tune with what exactly is going on in the specific district. And with these wards, as we've seen, it's not even from going in from the post-COVID, but also looking at many small businesses still haven't recovered from the art construction and the implementation of art. So how are we going to be able to connect not only for educational, retraining, and confidence for consumers to be able to come back to those businesses? But something the commission has taken on in that creation of the 5,000 jobs and 5,000 construction jobs and the $1 billion investment is being able to do investment through a number of different economic development tools. And so continuing on that platform of being able to partner with the state and sometimes even with the city to be able to provide not just jobs, but better jobs for our community. So it is being able to reach out to a number of stakeholders. And as having that experience in the last 8 years with the county economic development, of having already those partnerships there, of knowing how these programs are going to work and better our community from just the job creation piece, but also being able to making sure that our residents are also trained for taking those jobs in tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcos. Ms. Balboa, what specifically can or should a county commissioner do to help build a stronger economy?
Well, a county commissioner can and should support our with both their power of how they prioritize the budget and how we spend supports for our local and small business owners, as I've already mentioned, right? We know the importance of our local businesses and how they keep our economy afloat and how we have jobs. I'm also about how do we bring in development that works for our community, so that brings in clean jobs, not that puts our workers at risk. I know that our county has beautification places, so how do we couple where we need to create beautification in our neighborhoods that also is partnered with where we're incentivizing business owners to locate, that is creating walkability, that then has a whole safety net that's sort of there, creates beautification, it has a community where people want to walk around, and businesses there can be supported by the local economy. And so, yeah, I would prioritize those things working together. We have lots of art is so important into our public health and safety. So how do we commission artists to be part of the planning in how we develop a positive economic place where our walkable communities can be safe and increase safety in their own neighborhoods and have businesses that are able to locate there and thrive. So yes, I would want to work directly with business owners, make sure our community and artists and public health people are involved, and we're thinking about health assessments and the kind of jobs that are good and clean and respect workers. That's how we build a strong economy.
Thank you, Ms. Balboa. So the next question is going to go to all three candidates again, and I'm going to start with Marcos. If you do see yourself as a progressive, what does that mean in practice, and what differentiates you from a centrist Democrat?
be honest, I do see myself as a centrist, a Democrat, but I have very progressive values of being able to making sure that as I value all jobs that are important to our community, and that I believe in all the social programs that we need for all people, but we need to be able to pay for them. And so of wanting to making sure that these programs are available, but they need to be able to make sure that are sustainable. So that's where we need to have a healthy business environment, because once again, the county is a business that's dependent on businesses. And so being able to make sure that we have these programs, but we can pay for them, and not just for the short term, but also for the long term as well. And my family has a history of public service for a very long time, from education and as well as into politics. And so I've seen that growing up, and I see the value of being able to making sure that we're working for the community, making sure they have those items. So I'm here to serve everyone in the community and not just one specific group or one specific party, but I want to work with all of the community to making sure that we're building a better Bernalillo County. Because if anything, the COVID's taught us that we are all in this together, and that if we're going to succeed and we're going to be prosperous and we're going to be able to making sure that we have a healthy Bernalillo County, we have to unite, and not just one side or another, but everyone has to work together. Because if not, then our community won't be well. And I believe in the success of our community, and because I live in Ward 19A, believe in wanting to see the ward continue to be prosperous, because it's my community, it's my family's homes, and it's for future generations to come as well, their homes. And unless we work together, we won't see that promise that we've made to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Ms. Balboa, if you do see yourself as a progressive, what does that mean in practice? What differentiates you from a centrist Democrat?
Yes, so I am a community-based leader, and my actions and values have always led the forefront of all the work I've done, built. I've spent my lifetime building trusted relationships and serving our families directly across this district. From developing a now nationally recognized peer mentoring program for students of color that continues to serve as in Lhasa, New Mexico, to serving as a case manager, working with youth, navigating our criminal justice system, and young people who are facing houselessness, to working as the ED of Young Women United, where we got to build power and leadership of young women of color across our city, that continues to be a fruitful, beautiful organization that works for our state. And 8 years ago, I opened the Strong Families New Mexico Forward Together office, where I get to work year round, bringing our most working class families from across the state directly to their elected officials and policy making tables, directly working on healthcare access for all, on protecting access to reproductive healthcare and abortion for women. Right now, our communities are ready for bold leadership. I have spent my lifetime building the relationships, making the connections, building the alliances and communities. I've worked at the front lines. We were able to win that Respect ABQ Women campaign, not only by shifting the narrative of opening the doors for women to feel that they feel okay in the fact that they know that the personal decision about abortion is between themselves and who they choose to speak to, and not government. From when I worked on paid sick leave, to make sure that family voices, worker voices were at the front and center of that campaign the whole time. So yes, I am progressive. I am moving communities forward. And most importantly, I'm centering the work and lives of those communities most impacted at the front and center of policymaking.
Thank you, Ms. Balboa. Mr. Carver, if you do see yourself as a progressive, what does that mean in practice? What differentiates you from the centrist Democrats?
Yes, I am a progressive. I grew up in a family, a small working family that, struggled at times. My dad started a small business, and I watched my mom fighting injustice as a young person, from the age that I can, remember my mom doing things. And I'm proud to have learned from her and my dad how to work hard and to give back. I think of myself as somebody who comes from the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party. I've worked throughout my career to implement and advance those values. When the paid sick leave campaign, the ballot initiative campaign went down by a few votes, I set out to work to negotiate to put progressive values into the statute that then was advanced through the city council. I've worked to raise the minimum wage. When I was in high school, I worked to make sure that young people, 16 and 17-year-olds, could serve as poll workers. I believe that when we get young people involved in our government early, that they're going to be lifelong voters. As a young person myself, I got my start and I caught the policy bug when I was advocating for to double the number of school-based health centers across the state. I'm proud to have served on the board of the New Mexico Alliance for School-Based Health Centers. I believe in the most progressive harm reduction policies that we can implement to end the cycles of addiction. So please go to my website. I'm out of time, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. And our next question from one of our attendees is for Mr. Carver. I was shocked to receive your mailer that accused Ms. Balboa of being a felon. Can you explain why you don't think this is dirty politics?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And, I think I mentioned earlier that any one single arrest or bench warrant isn't necessarily disqualifying. Things happen. Bench warrants, we forget to pay our parking tickets. We live in a society where some of the laws in other states are unjust. I wanted to make sure that voters knew that, folks need to be able to take care of their own administrative affairs, take care of their own finances. I really see this as a job interview. Before we let somebody manage, upwards of $600, $700 million budget, that a candidate should not have ignored a judge 6 times in the last 3 years. And so that's important to me. This is a job interview, and who is most prepared to advance and to manage our policies, our budget. These are critical things, and this is an important place. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. And I believe this next question is directed to all of the candidates. So how would you ensure the improvement of the lives and experiences to the people who live outside on the street and do not have access to the city's shelter system? And if you can, please be specific. I'm going to start with Marcos and go.
Great question. That's where we need to work with partnering with our nonprofits that serve a lot of the individuals that are experiencing homelessness, and not just having access to shelter or to one item, but making sure that we're not leaving any resident of Bernalillo County out, because that's a commitment that we have to make to the community to ensure that we're being able to serve those individuals as well. So it's not just the city, a county, or a state focus, once again, but looking at how do we partner with all the different agencies that are providing such great services, and making sure that we're banding together to not leave out any individual. And so thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Barboa, How would you ensure the improvement in the lives and experiences of the people who sleep outside on the street and they do not have access to the city shelter system? And please be specific. You need to unmute yourself.
Shoot.
Go ahead, start over.
Sorry. Thank you for this. Again, such an important question for our whole county. Right. I believe in services meeting our folks that are unsheltered where they're at. Right. Homelessness and houselessness occurs sort of in some buckets that we've known. People have done lots of research on this. Our county has, I think our county gateway center is a great idea. Where it's placed and how it gets placed, I think is still to be determined. But how we have a 24-hour service center where then we are definitely relieving the stress that the hospitals feel when people who are on the streets, that are sleeping on the streets and not able to access the services because of, quite honestly, they have restrictions that are needed for the safety of those programs. But we also still have to meet the needs of those folks that aren't meeting those requirements to be able to stay in the city services otherwise, or the county services otherwise. So having a 24-hour access to that service relieves so much of the bottleneck that's happening, and really services to be better served elsewhere than the hospital or in the jail. So it also frees up our police time, frees up our jail system when we have that kind of 24-hour service. And the city's proposing that already. It's in the works, how our county can partner to make sure our services through MATS or other health services and safety nets that we already have in place can work collaboratively with that program to make sure that we're meeting the needs and increasing the safety in our communities and still meeting the needs of those living without shelter.
Thank you. And Mr. Carter, the same question. How would you ensure the improvement in the lives and the experience of people who sleep outside on the street and do not have access to city shelter systems? Please be specific.
Yeah, again, I appreciate this question because I believe that being unsheltered should be rare. It should be brief. It should be non-recurring. And, you know, this issue is solved by tackling or by applying the right mix of a variety of solutions. You know, I believe that if we have the courage, we can end homelessness in Albuquerque in the near future. That means, you know, partnering with the city on an integrated intergovernmental command structure where, you know, we have, you know, the wraparound services at a gateway center. I don't believe that that should be a huge 300 bed facility. I think we need to invest in a kind of hub and spoke model of various types of housing throughout the city, so that we are meeting the folks where they're at, where they're living. You know, the places that they've been living. You know, I want to see us invest in a promotora system of community level workers to work with people living on the streets. And we've got to really build a strong ecosystem to intervene before people become homeless. That's why you see on my website that, you know, I want to focus on, you know, building a variety types of housing, but also making sure that people are paid a living wage, to increase penalties when an employer, you know, doesn't follow the minimum wage or the paid sick leave laws. Protecting our immigrant community is incredibly important to this district. You know, employers that are engaging in wage theft, we've got to make sure that people are able to earn the money that they need to provide for themselves and their families.
Thank you. And this is going to be our last question. Can you please comment on the economic inequalities in the U.S. and how you see that they show up in Bernalillo County? What do you see as the causes of these economic injustices? And what can we do about this to improve in our own community? And I believe I'm with Miss Baboa. I hope you're next. Go for it.
I'm not sure, but I'm willing to go. So thank
Okay.
you.
And I apologize.
No worries. Thank you for doing this work. It's hard to keep track. Yes, the county, we have so much power in this, right? Inequities happen at first for women, for Indigenous and immigrants, for our working class families, for people of color. We see that the brunt of wage inequalities and economic inequalities happens and almost in that order, right? Like if you're an Indigenous woman, if you're an immigrant woman, you face the most pieces of inequities, right? If you're, so yes, this has been something that we've been fighting for. I'm happy to have led on the front for women's economic equality, basically since I was about 15. How do we make sure that our businesses, that we support women-owned businesses, that we're creating economic opportunities for folks who haven't had that? It also means pipelines of trades and businesses and ways that we increase access to quality education and post-secondary education for so many of our students and families. I think that we could talk all day about the root causes of those economic inequalities. They're based on a racist, classist, patriarchal system that was never really meant to serve those, right? So yes, I'm ready. I've done the work on paid sick leave to make sure families of color and immigrant voices were included. We did the work on the Respect ABQ Women campaign when we defeated that anti-abortion ballot initiative because we brought in the voices of LGBT communities, of workers' rights. We brought in the economic justice frame because we do not live single issue lives. And when we recognize that our families are stronger, when we have especially equal pay for all of us, that's when we are able to have a greater economy and that values all our families, all our workers.
Thank you, Ms. Baba. Mr. Carver, please comment on economic inequalities in the U.S. and how they show up in Bernalillo County. What do you see as the causes of economic injustices, and what can we do about them in our own community?
Yeah, so, we are living in a community, on stolen land. So we are living we're living and experiencing the continual and long-lasting effects of colonialism, and that has manifested even in our community with redlining and financial services policies. And we see the legacy of those harmful racist practices. I agree with Adrienne. We live multi-issue lives, and the effect of these systems that have been built are that there are lower outcomes for health for many of the people living in our community. Folks live in food deserts where there is not access to healthy foods. And we've seen our community come together and begin to put, really important work into building community gardens. Education outcomes, all of these things are based on, you can tell the outcomes that a young person is going to experience largely based on their zip code. And in Bernalillo County District 3, we have areas that have been forgotten by our government for, decades, if not forever. So, when I'm thinking about raising my family with my husband in Bernalillo County, we want to raise our kids in a place that is safe, where all zip codes have, equitable outcomes, that we're moving in a direction where everybody has what they need to provide for their families and to be healthy.
Thank you. And your last question of the afternoon to Marcos. Please comment on economic inequalities in the U.S. and how they show up in Bernalillo County. What do you see as the causes of economic injustices, and what can we do about it in our own community?
Okay, thank you. The greatest thing about being involved in local government is that transition can take place very quickly. It's not like the federal government where changes can take a very long time. Stuff that's passed by the commission can be implemented in 2 weeks. And so we've seen the economic development growth be economic justice and ensuring that we're creating additional jobs in pockets of all over the county. In District 3, we've seen being able to save like the De Anza, where there's been, without the county stepping in, the paintings that are such a cultural icon to not just the Nob Hill area, but being able to have them saved and preserved art, but also stepping in and how do we, we have the only state's art incubator, which was supported by the Bernalillo County through economic development funds as well, that's located in Midtown. So it's finding these creative solutions of being able to ensure that we provide economic development to all portions of the county, but into all sectors. And we need to do better about being creative and being able to making sure that every entrepreneur, business owner has access to economic development programming, whether that be education, training, or different programs. Because we have to make that a clear history that if we want economic growth, it has to be accessible to everyone. And that's part of the work that I've done as well with not just Living Cities, but City Alive is in their work to get access to capital to individuals who normally would not be able to, and using non-traditional lending to do that. And a big work of mine has been working with the success of the South Valley Economic Development Center and the entrepreneurs that know they have a really awesome salsa or red chili, but don't know how to distribute it. And now if you wanted to, you could be in New York or California or even across the pond and order that salsa from there.
Thank you. So I know there's more questions from the attendees, and I would like to ask the attendees to direct their questions specifically to the candidates by going to their website and contacting the candidates so that they can further ask those questions. And candidates, please feel free to put a link of your website into the chat room. We will give you 1 minute to close, but before we do that, I'd like to thank all of the candidates for attending today, coming. We understand that it takes great leadership just to run as a candidate in a campaign. And this forum has been hosted by Ward 19A, B, and C, and I thank all the hard work that's gone into this. For Janet, our timekeeper, and the wonderful questions that she's helped prepare us. For Flora, helping us in our chat room. And last, a big thanks to all our attendees who showed up today. Informing our voters is the most important thing, so we're really happy that you were able to come in. So we're going to go in order for closing remarks from our candidates, starting with Ms. Balboa.
Great. Thank you again to Ward and to for giving us this great opportunity to connect with you all and voters in our district. My name is Adrienne Barboa, and I'm running for Bernalillo County Commission because we need strong community-based leadership. Southeast is where I grew up. It's where I raised my kids. I am a single mom of 2 who has led the fight for reproductive health care rights, including abortion, for paid sick leave, for health care access for all of us through the Medicaid buy-in. I know that my community has unacceptable levels of crime, and I know that much of it is related to generational trauma, substance use, and poverty. As your county commissioner, I will create public safety policies that include everyone and help everyone feel safe. I will fight for a living wage and paid leave for work for all our workers, and I will continue to fight fairly and fully to clean up the Air Force Base. I am not afraid to be the leader who I am and to live my values. As your next county commissioner, I will lead with my values, and together we can move all of our communities forward. I'm looking forward to working with you. Barboa for Bernco. I hope I can count on your vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Barboa. Mr. Carver.
Yeah, thank you to Ward 19 for putting this together. It's been an interesting campaign to try and reach voters during this public health crisis. So I appreciate the time. You know, you, like I said at the beginning, you may know me as the former president of Nob Hill Neighborhood Association, the Young Democrats of New Mexico, the executive director at Equality New Mexico, where I've been fighting for our progressive values for the LGBTQ community. I'm born and raised in Bernalillo County, District 3. I am just a young, queer, Hispanic guy trying to live up to the legacy of service of my family that's lived here for 9 generations. I'm really excited and ready and to be a happy warrior fighting on our to focus on our recovery, public safety and criminal justice reform, environmental justice, public education, and the economy.
Thank you. And Mr. Gonzalez, if you could end us off.
Thank you to Wards 19A, B, and C for organizing today, as well as the Democratic Party for sharing this elsewhere. I am, as you said, we've talked about the job of a county commissioner today, dealing with policy and budget, and it's about a job. And with my experience in economic development and as a small business owner, putting that together, of being able to lead for our community and to our wards, because this is the place that my family lives, the place where we've peeled chili every fall, and the place we went to the state fair every year. And so I'm committed to investing and making sure that it continues to be prosperous for all, and putting my economic development knowledge for the community, which is why I believe the Albuquerque Journal endorsed me, and I'm proud of that endorsement as well. And so I look forward to working with all of our stakeholders in our community, because while there may be seem many challenges and obstacles, there's nothing that if we don't work creatively that we can't solve together. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And so this is the end of our forum. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Good health and safety to everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.